A Minneapolis couple decided to go to Florida to thaw out during a particularly icy winter. They planned to stay at the same hotel where they had spent their honeymoon 20 years earlier. Because of hectic schedules, it was difficult to coordinate their travel schedules. So, the husband left Minnesota and flew to Florida on Thursday, with his wife set to fly down the following day. The husband checked into the hotel. There was a computer in his room, so he decided to send an email to his wife. However, he accidentally left out one letter in her email address, and without realizing his error, sent it. Meanwhile, somewhere in Houston, a widow had just returned home from her husband's funeral. He was a minister who was called home to glory following a heart attack. The widow decided to check her email, expecting messages from relatives and friends. After reading the first message, she screamed and fainted. The widow's son rushed into the room, found his mother on the floor, and saw the computer screen which read, "To my loving wife, date January 19th, 2018. Subject, I've arrived. I know you're surprised to hear from me. They have computers here now, and you are allowed to send emails to your loved ones. I've just arrived and have been checked in. I've seen that everything has been prepared for your arrival tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you then. Hope your journey is as uneventful as mine was. Sure is freaking hot down here." A man doing market research for Vaseline knocked on a door. He was greeted by a young woman who had 3 small children running around at her feet. He says, "Afternoon, madam. I'm doing some research for Vaseline. Have you ever used the product?" She nods. "Yes, my husband and I use it all the time." The researcher then asks, "And if you don't mind me asking, what do you use it for?" "We use it for sex," she replies. The researcher was a little taken aback. He says, "Usually people lie to me and say that they use it on a child's bicycle chain or to help with a gate hinge. But in fact, I know that most people do use it for sex. I admire you for your honesty. Since you've been frank so far, can you tell me exactly how you use it for sex?" "Absolutely," she replies. "We put it on the doorknob to keep the kids out." I was driving my new Bronco through Colorado when I had to swerve sharply to avoid hitting a deer. I lost control and landed in a ditch, severely banging my head. Dazed and confused, I crawled out of the wreck to the edge of the road. Moments later, a shiny new convertible pulled up with a very beautiful woman driving, who asked if I was all right. I looked up and I noticed she was wearing a low-cut blouse with mouth-watering cleavage. I stammered, "I'm okay, I think," as I got closer to the side of her car to get a better look. She said, "Get in and I'll take you to my place. I'll clean and bandage that nasty scrape on your head." "That's nice of you," I replied, "but I don't think my wife will like me doing that." "Oh, it'll be all right. I'm a nurse," she explained, "and I need to see if you have any more cuts so I can treat them properly." Well, she was really pretty and very persuasive. Being sort of shaken and not thinking clearly, I agreed, but repeated, "I'm sure my wife won't like this." We arrived at her place, which was just a few miles away, and after a couple of cold beers and her taking care of my cuts, I thanked her and said, "I feel a lot better, but I know my wife is going to be really upset, so I'd better go now." She said, "Don't be silly," as she leaned forward to place a hand on my knee. "Stay for a while. She won't know anything. By the way, where is she?" I opened another beer and said, "Probably still in the wreck." A nurse asks a patient to remove his clothing and put on a gown before getting examined by the doctor. "In front of you?" he asked shyly. The nurse said, "Don't worry, I've seen plenty of naked bodies before." The patient replied, "Not one like mine. You'd die laughing at my naked body." "Of course I won't laugh," said the nurse to the patient. "I'm a professional. In over 20 years, I've never laughed at a patient." "Okay then," said the patient, slowly undressing. First he unbuttoned his shirt, took off his pants, and with a sigh, pulled down his underwear. In front of the nurse stood a huge naked male body with the smallest male organ that the nurse had ever seen in her life. It was almost identical in length and width to a AAA battery. Unable to control herself, the nurse tried to stop a giggle, but it just came out. When she realized that she was laughing, she felt very bad for laughing at the patient's private parts and composed herself as well as she could. "I am so sorry," the nurse said. "I don't know what came over me. On my honor as a nurse, I promise that it won't happen again. Now tell me, what seems to be the problem?" The patient replied, "It's swollen." After a few years of married life, a man finds that he is unable to perform for his wife. He goes to his doctor, and his doctor tries a few medications, but nothing works. Finally, the doctor says to him, "This is all in your mind," and refers him to a psychiatrist. After a few visits with the psychiatrist confesses he cannot figure out what is wrong. The psychiatrist decides to refer him to a witch doctor. The witch doctor says, "I can cure this." He throws some powder on a flame, and there is a flash with billowing blue smoke. The witch doctor says, "This is powerful healing, but you can only use it once a year. All you have to do is say 1, 2, 3, and it shall rise for as long as you wish." The guy then asks the witch doctor, "What happens when I'm done?" The witch doctor says, "All you or your partner has to say is 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will go down. But be warned, it will not work again for a full year." The guy goes home, and that night he is ready to surprise his wife with the good news. So as he is lying in bed with his wife, he says 1, 2, 3, and instantly feels himself hard as a rock. With that, his wife turns over and says, "What did you say 1, 2, 3 for?" Wife's diary. "Tonight, I thought Tom was acting weird. We had made plans to meet at a nice restaurant for dinner. I was shopping with my friends all day long, and I was a little late for our date. Conversation wasn't flowing, so I thought he was upset at the fact that I was a bit late, but he made no comment on it. So I suggested that we go somewhere quiet so we could talk. He agreed, but he didn't say much. I asked him what was wrong. He said, 'Nothing.' I asked him if it was my fault that he was upset. He said he wasn't upset, that it had nothing to do with me, and not to worry about it. On the way home, I told him that I loved him. He smiled slightly and kept driving. I can't explain his behavior. I don't know why he didn't say, 'I love you too.' When we got home, I felt as if I had lost him completely, as if he wanted nothing to do with me anymore. He just sat there quietly and watched TV. He continued to seem distant and absent. Finally, with silence all around us, I decided to go to bed. About 15 minutes later, he came to bed, but I still felt that he was distracted and his thoughts were somewhere else. He fell asleep. I cried. I don't know what to do. I'm almost sure that his thoughts are with someone else. My life is a disaster. Husband's diary. Mower won't start. Can't figure out why. My friends, if you want to watch other funny jokes, subscribe to the channel.